Good morning. We're going to go over your answers to the different stations that you've been rotating through the past few days. So we're going to start with the reproduction and inheritance questions. So go ahead and find those on your own sheet of paper. So as we're going over these, make sure that you're changing your answers. If you got it wrong, that's okay. Just make the correction, and then when you're all done, you'll turn in this sheet of paper with the corrected answers to the substitute. So we'll go ahead and get started with reproduction and inheritance. How many cells are needed to go through asexual reproduction? That would be one cell or one organism. How many cells or organisms are needed to go through sexual reproduction? That would be two. The asexual reproduction, the cell will literally split itself in half to create two identical cells like the original parent. And with sexual reproduction, two organisms are needed to make one offspring. Number two, the two human gametes are the egg cell and the sperm cell. Number three, our body cells will reproduce asexually because when you get a cut on your arm or something, your skin cells will get bigger and then divide into two to make more skin cells to seal up your cut. Same thing when you break a bone. Your bone cells will divide themselves to make more bone to seal up that break. Our gametes, or the egg and sperm cell, are when they fuse together, during which reproduction type? That would be through sexual reproduction, because you need two cells to make an offspring. Number four, which form of reproduction makes identical cells? That would be asexual reproduction. And what form of the reproduction looks like a combination of the parents? That would be sexual reproduction. And number five, which form of reproduction humans use? That would be sexual reproduction. Because I don't know about you, but I certainly can't divide myself to make a new organism, so to be going through asexual reproduction. So, all right, next section is the types of reproduction. Part one, because there's two. So, two examples of asexual reproduction. That would be budding and binary fission. Budding, that occurs when an organism will grow another part. It kind of sprouts off of the original parent plant, and then it will detach itself and fall to the ground and sprout a new organism. So it's kind of like how plants reproduce with seeds. The seeds will can detach themselves, fall to the ground, and grow a new plant, but that's not technically budding. Coral will reproduce this way. So that's how a coral reef grows, is a coral will grow a little small polyp is what they call it, and then that will detach from the parent plant, fall to the ground right next to the parent, and you get a brand new organism. Number two, an example of a unicellular organism, that would be bacteria, some protists like a paramecium or an amoeba or something like that. Example of a multicellular organism, that would be any plant or animal or a fungi. Number three, when our body cells go through binary fission or budding to reproduce, that would be binary fission, because they divide themselves. That's what binary fission means. Fission means to split. Binary means two. So again, we don't grow off a part of our, like a new arm or something, if we needed to grow that. And so number four, what organisms would actually reproduce to carry on their species through asexual reproduction? That would be bacteria. And number five, what effect would a virus have on a population of organisms that reproduced only asexually? That would wipe the entire population out, since they all have the same DNA. Think about it like a recall on a car. So if we had a 2010 Ford Explorer and they determined there was some fuse that was causing fires in the car, every single 2010 Ford was built the exact same way with the exact same parts. Just like asexually reproduced organisms have the exact same copy of DNA, because they're literally dividing and making a copy. So if a virus attacks one cell, it's going to be able to attack all of the other ones since they're exactly the same. Just like on the recalls of the cars, if the fuse is bad on one car, then it's going to be bad on all of the cars since they were all built the exact same way. All right, types of reproduction number 2. So try to find that one. Number 1, will sexual reproduction produce genetically identical or genetically different offspring? It's going to be different since you're going to have 2 different organisms combining their genes to make a new one. So it's not going to be identical. Number 2, why is sexual reproduction advantageous? It allows for species to adapt quickly. It also allows for genetic variation since you're blending. Number 3, why are offspring a blend of their parents in sexual reproduction? Because there are 2 parents that have their genes blending together. Number 4, the major type of process that organisms go through and use when going through sexual reproduction, that would be meiosis, M-E-I-O-S-I-S. Yes, sorry, that's Luke. So meiosis, M-E-I-O-S-I-S.
What's that?
Number 5, how many organisms are required to go through sexual reproduction? That would be 2. Types of fertilization is the next one. 2 ways that fertilization can occur would be internal fertilization and external fertilization. The type of fertilization number 2 that we go through is going to be internal fertilization because the egg cell is fertilized inside the female. Number 3, how are internal and external fertilization similar? They are similar because the egg cell gets fertilized in both cases by the sperm cell, but number 4, they're different because external fertilization occurs when the egg is fertilized outside of the female, and internal fertilization occurs when the egg is fertilized inside of the female. Number 5, which types of organisms will go through external fertilization? That would be fish, turtles, any reptiles, basically anything that lays an egg. And the last one, chromosomes. Number 1, what are chromosomes made of? That would be DNA. Number 2, how many chromosomes do humans have? 46. We have 23 pairs because you get 1 set of DNA from your mom and 1 set of DNA from your dad. So we have 46 chromosomes in all. Kind of gives you the answer to number 3. Where did your chromosomes originally come from? Your mom and dad. Chromosomes, number 4, are important for living organisms because they determine your traits. They determine what you're going to look like, what kind of blood type you're going to have. It determines a lot of your physical characteristics. And number 5, what shapes are chromosomes in? That would be an X shape. So make sure that you've written down all the correct answers for yourself so that way you can get all of the points possible since this is going to be participation points only. So just make sure you can stop, rewind, re-listen to anything that you need, and have a great weekend.